This is a full story. Kitten wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. I took care of the blind Luna for 3 years. The first thing she did after regaining her sight was to reunite with her ex-boyfriend and propose to him in a grand gesture. When the media asked for my thoughts on their upcoming wedding, I faced the cameras and sincerely said, "Congratulations on your marriage." Yet she braved the heavy rain to beg me not to leave her. Lying in the hospital bed, I watched the news that had been pushed for several days. The heir of the incorporation, Noah, had finally settled down, proposed to in a high-profile manner by his girlfriend. Their 5-year relationship, unwavering and devoted, had touched countless netizens. Many envied Luna, calling her a real-life Cinderella who had found her prince. The media praised her for her courage in kneeling on one knee, holding a ring and proposing to him. In the video, her eyes were bright, still as beautiful as ever. This was my first time seeing her eyes after she regained her sight. I turned off my phone and flushed the prepared ring down the toilet. That night, I was discharged from the hospital. It was just a minor scrape after all. I had been in such a hurry to find Luna that I hadn't noticed the electric scooter beside me. If not for the mall's big screen broadcasting that romantic proposal, I wouldn't have ended up in the hospital. I went home. The house was dark and silent. Only the ticking of the clock remained. This was our home. At least I thought it was. 3 years ago, Luna had a car accident, and Noah went abroad. So I brought her here and took care of her. Before, whenever I came home, Luna would come out of the bedroom. She would ask if I was tired. Then I would cook, and afterward we would lie on the sofa together, or I would play the piano while she softly hummed along. 3 years passed in a flash, and in the end, only I was left. I turned on the lights. Every corner of the tables and chairs had been wrapped in cloth, not just the furniture. Any sharp edges in the house were covered. I was afraid Luna would get hurt. Even though she was already familiar with the space, I still couldn't feel at ease. I let out a bitter laugh, walking over to tear off the fabric piece by piece. Her eyes had healed. She no longer needed this protection. I used too much force, my fingers slamming into the table corner. It hurt, so much that even my heart ached. See, Luna once said I didn't need to cover them, but how could I not? It hurt so much. The door opened from the outside. I turned around, and there Luna stood. She wore a red dress, her lips painted a bold shade, Noah's favorite color. "You're here." "Yeah." I continued tearing off the cloth. She walked quickly toward me, her high heels sinking into the carpet, making only the faintest sound. She stood in front of me, watching as I stripped away the fabric, exposing the sharp edges beneath. A few seconds later, she suddenly let out a soft laugh. "Right, I don't need these anymore." Yeah, when I was done, I went straight to my room to pack. After all 3 years of living here meant there were still quite a few things, but important ones, not many. When I dragged my suitcase out, Luna was sitting on the couch in the living room. She had been sitting there for over 2 hours. Seeing me with my luggage, she quickly walked over, lifting her chin defiantly. "You don't have to leave. This is your house. I'll go. I'm selling it." Her face turned pale. Her lips trembled. You really want to erase our past that badly?" "I never wanted to erase anything." "Don't you?" I asked in return. I had known her for 10 years. She was proud and strong, always striving to be the best. But in those 3 years, she couldn't do anything. She couldn't even eat without help, or go to the bathroom without assistance. For 3 years, she hardly left the house except for hospital visits. She never wanted anyone to see her weak. That was her most miserable time. Those 3 years, weren't they the memories she wanted to erase the most? She stared at me, her face slightly twitching. Then she turned sharply, grabbed her purse from the couch, and said coldly, "Throw away all my stuff." With that, she slammed the door and left. Not long after, I left too. I met Luna when I was 13. I was kidnapped at 5 years old, and it took my parents 10 years to find me. Even after returning home, I never truly felt a sense of belonging. Though my parents were kind, the unfamiliarity never left me. Luna's parents were good friends with mine, so she often came over. It was she who gradually helped me open up, who stayed by my side so I could adapt to my family again. When I was 15, Luna's family went bankrupt. Before I could even comfort her, they moved away overnight. After that, I kept looking for her. I agreed to join my parents' company in the future, just so I could be in a better position to help Luna. I applied to her school and became her junior, but when we met again, she was no longer the girl I remembered. She smiled less, her face always cold. Only when facing Noah did she smile. Everyone called her distant, unapproachable. I felt sorry for her. She used to be so warm, so full of laughter. Noah came from a wealthy family, so Luna once again became covered in designer brands. Yet when she got into a car accident and was hospitalized, Noah never showed up. Her parents were gone, and for years she had been alone. My heart ached for her, ignoring my family's objections. I took care of her. My parents wanted me to join the company, but to stay by Luna's side, I firmly refused. They kicked me out of the house, so I played piano and sang in bars and restaurants, while taking care of Luna, helping her heal. During that time, her temper was terrible, flaring up at the smallest things. Even now, there are faint scars on my hands and face. She said she was like a swan with broken wings, alive but without meaning. When the doctor told us there was a high chance she could regain her sight, she asked me, "If you cure me, aren't you afraid I'll leave?" I was never afraid of her leaving. I was only afraid afraid that she would never be happy again. Before closing the door, I took one last look at the place where I had spent the past 3 years. A friend knowing about me and Luna invited me to a musical to help me relax. It had been a long time since I last came. Over the years, Luna and I had been living in poverty. Now that I think about it, I can understand why she left. After all, even I would find such a life difficult. My friend suddenly patted my shoulder. "Isn't that Noah and Luna? What bad luck running into them everywhere." I looked over. They were sitting a few rows ahead of me. I shook my head. That's not them. Although their backs looked incredibly similar, I could tell at a glance that the woman wasn't Luna. It wasn't until the man turned slightly to fix the woman's hair that I saw his profile. It really was Noah, but the woman beside him wasn't Luna. After the show ended, I hurriedly followed them outside. Noah was carefully shielding the woman, in a way he had never done for Luna. When the woman's shoelace came undone, he immediately crouched down to tie it for her. Was this really the Noah I knew? When the woman turned her head, I was stunned. She looked so much like Luna, almost like twins. Just as I was about to chase after them for answers, my phone rang. It was my sister. She told me our father was in the hospital and urged me to come quickly. My heart leaped into my throat and I rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, my sister was waiting for me at the entrance. "How's Dad?" She sighed. "You'll see when you go in." My hands trembled uncontrollably, fear gripping my heart, my mind going blank. But when I pushed open the door, I saw my dad sitting on the hospital bed happily eating fruit. "Dad." He looked at me, put the fruit down, and his expression turned serious. My mom stood up and hugged me, crying as she hit me. "How could you be so heartless? You said you wouldn't come home, and you really didn't." My sister burst into laughter. "It was Dad who wanted to see you, so he made up this terrible excuse." Even I was scared for a moment. My dad snorted and glared at her. "Who said that I really am sick?" My sister giggled. Sure, a cold is still an illness, especially when it gets as bad as 37 degrees. My dad's face turned red and he stiffened his neck without saying a word. My mom's tears soaked my chest. "I'm sorry." The room fell silent. My parents looked at me. I walked over and suddenly knelt in front of my dad. "Son, what are you doing?" My mom tried to pull me up, but my sister stopped her. "Dad, Mom, I'm sorry. I was too much." My dad lifted the blanket, got out of bed, and pulled me up by the arm. His eyes were red, a glimmering light flashing within them. They had really aged a lot. My dad's hair was streaked with white. My mom had more wrinkles. I had really been away for 3 years. 3 years without seeing my own parents. Guilt surged over me like a flood, making my nose sting. My dad patted my shoulder. "Well, I guess I was too harsh back then too." We were all stunned. We hadn't expected him to apologize. He had always been strong-willed, never allowing himself to be questioned. The guilt in my heart deepened. Then my dad suddenly bellowed, "If you dare cry, I'll break your legs." I quickly sniffled. "I'm not crying. I never said I was gonna cry." My mom walked over, looking at me expectantly. "Come home, son. From now on you can do whatever you want. Your father and I won't interfere anymore." I held her hand and wiped away her tears. I won't be so stubborn anymore." Half an hour later, my dad was discharged. After returning home, I sought out my sister. She and Noah had been college classmates. She should know something. She sighed when she heard my question. "That woman is Noah's first love. Her name was Ava. She came from an ordinary family and was once Noah's tutor. The Inn family would never have accepted their relationship, so they forcibly sent Ava abroad." I was confused. "Then why did he pursue Luna?" My sister shook her head. "This is what they call a stand-in for the first love. Get it?" Noah had always been surrounded by scandals, but I never expected his character to be this despicable, dating Ava while accepting Luna's proposal. When I went to the hospital to pick up my dad's medical report, I saw Noah there with Ava. What shocked me even more, Ava was already pregnant. "Noah, do you realize you're about to get married?" He saw me, but didn't even flinch. He smiled indifferently. "So what? So what?" Luna's image appeared in my mind, kneeling, holding out the ring, tears streaming down her face. Rage surged through me. Before I knew it, my fist had already swung forward. Noah wasn't expecting it. I knocked him straight to the ground. Ava screamed and rushed to help him up. Noah gently patted her hand, then stood up and shielded her behind him. My sister had said Noah loved Ava. I believed it now. Everything about his body language was protecting Ava. "Ethan, don't meddle in my business with Luna. Otherwise, if I suddenly decide not to go through with the wedding, I'm afraid she might blame you." With that, he wrapped his arm around Ava and left. Honestly, I should have known. He understood Luna better than I did. Sure enough, Luna came to find me. "Why did you hit him? Why did you hit Noah? Do you have any idea he's about to marry me?" I looked directly into her furious eyes. "Do you know he's with Ava? Do you know they already have a child?" Slap. The sound was crisp and loud. I raised my hand to touch my face. Her fingernail had left a scratch. My whole face burned, but the cut on my cheek stung the most. "Ethan, this is the last time I'm telling you. My affairs are none of your business." I looked at the blood on my fingertip. I wanted to be angry, but I laughed instead. "Don't worry. From now on, I'll never interfere again." When I left, Luna was still standing there. The driver opened the car door and glanced at Luna. He knew her too. "How did things end up like this?" he sighed. I looked at her through the car window. She stood under the white birch tree, backlit by the light. The wind pressed her long dress tightly against her body, making her look frail and lonely. silently. The driver continued, "Luna used to be such a good kid." Sigh. I thought of Luna from before Luna at 16. She liked to sit and watch me, sometimes on a bench, sometimes right on the grass. She used to say she wished everyone could just sit down and talk things out. Her parents had been bitter enemies for years. Whenever they saw each other, they were like fighting roosters. Forget about sitting down, if they didn't start fighting, it was already a blessing. That's why she liked coming to my house. Suddenly, I felt like I had let go. In that moment, something inside me was blown away like dust in the wind. I finally understood Luna wasn't coming back. 16-year-old Luna was never coming back. Early the next morning, the housekeeper told me Luna had come to see me. My parents wanted to say something, but exchanged glances and went back to their room instead. Luna deliberately dressed, simply tying her hair up high. My mom liked girls who looked neat and energetic. She still remembered. "I'm sorry." She reached out to touch my face, but I dodged. Awkwardly, she withdrew her hand. "I lost my temper yesterday. I didn't sleep at all last night. I really regret hitting you." I sighed. "I don't blame you. In fact, I should be grateful for that slap. Without it, I wouldn't be able to face her so calmly now." "That's good." We sat together, but had nothing to say. In the end, I broke the silence. "How are things with Noah?" She smiled, looking like a blissful bride. "He owes me his life. He won't not marry me." I was about to ask her what she meant, but she got up to leave. "Ethan, thank you." As she walked away, it seemed like she was crying. My mom's 60th birthday was coming up, so I got busy with preparations. Luna's matters were completely pushed out of my mind. "Hey, you're working pretty efficiently." That voice, it was so familiar. I turned around abruptly and saw Sophia standing behind me. She was pulling a suitcase and grinning at me. "Why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" Seeing her glare at me, I quickly corrected myself. "It's just been so long since I last saw you, I almost didn't recognize you." She snorted and suddenly leaned in close. I jumped back in fright. She wasn't happy about that. What am I, some kind of tiger? My shoulders started to ache just thinking about it. Even if she wasn't a tiger, she was pretty close. She had always had a fiery temper. Once she had bitten my shoulder so hard that the scar was still there. Just remembering it made me shudder. My sister walked over. "Sophia is a fashion designer now. She designed the outfits Mom and Dad will wear for the birthday banquet. When she left the country, I had gone to see her off. But I got stuck in traffic, and by the time I arrived, she was already gone. Yet as soon as she landed, she called me and cussed me out. She kept scolding me, and in the end, she even cried. So I had to coax her over the phone. In short, to me, Sophia could be summed up in 2 words: a handful. Sophia will stay in the room next to yours. Take her there." "All right." I took her suitcase. "You've aged a lot in these years." I rolled my eyes. I knew it. She was my personal bad luck charm. Yeah, as long as you're still beautiful." She giggled. After setting up her room, she tossed me a delicate box. "A gift for you." It was a brooch intricately designed with my favorite sapphire. "This is the first piece of jewelry I designed. No one else would want it, so I'm giving it to you." I was used to her sharp tone. "Should I kneel and thank you then?" Sophia nodded matter-of-factly. "Of course. You're right." Ever since Sophia arrived, the house was filled with laughter. I had almost forgotten, despite her bad temper, she was a bundle of joy. Wherever she was, there was always laughter. For the next few days, my schedule was completely packed, all arranged by her. We walked through our high school campus, but neither of us spoke. After a while, the silence became a little awkward, so I sighed and said, "Our school really hasn't changed much." Sophia, of course, didn't spare me any dignity. "Are your eyes okay? This place has changed a lot." I rolled my eyes in frustration. "But back then, you wouldn't have obediently walked with me like this." That was true. Sophia and I had known each other since childhood, but our personalities were vastly different. I was quiet, she talked too much, so I always avoided her. But the more I avoided her, the more she sought me out to play. Eventually, we developed a dynamic where she would chase and I would flee. Thinking back, now I have to admire Sophia's energy. She was like a little sun, always shining, always warm and vibrant. That was something I never had, something I envied. "Do you still have that scar?" I nodded. "Of course. You nearly bit off a piece of my flesh." She pouted. "Did I ever apologize for that?" "No need. It's been so long." She huffed. "Good, because I wasn't planning to." Her expression made me laugh. "If you hadn't been so obsessed with Luna, I wouldn't have bitten you." That was probably true. That time she didn't want me to go see Luna. We argued, and in a fit of rage, she bit me. She hesitated, then said carefully, "Luna is getting married." I nodded. "I know." Seeing that I didn't react, she let out a quiet sigh of relief. Sophia was actually very perceptive. Sometimes she could read my emotions even better than Luna could. But back then, she had been too lively, too spoiled, making it hard to associate her with sensitivity. When my parents saw us returning together, they beamed with joy. My mom adored Sophia. She liked cheerful, outgoing children. Unfortunately, neither of her 2 daughters had that personality. "Sophia, thank you so much for all your help. You must be exhausted." Sophia glanced at me. "Not at all. Ethan kept me company, and I got to see Uncle and Auntie. I couldn't be happier." Such a sweet talk. talker. This was exactly how she won my mom over step by step. On the day of the birthday banquet, many relatives and friends arrived. Sophia and I felt a little out of place, so we sat in a corner. She pointed at a guest. "Look at his suit shining with all the colors of black." Then at a female guest. "And that dress, I'd bet anything the designer got their inspiration straight from a vegetable patch." Now that she mentioned it, the dress really did look like a head of cabbage. I tried my best to hold back my laughter. But of course, the more inappropriate it was to laugh, the harder it was to suppress. "That's Luna, isn't it?" Sophia patted my shoulder. I looked over. Luna was staring back at me, standing beside Noah. She was right. Noah had agreed to marry her again. Luna's gaze shifted to Sophia, then she slowly walked toward us. She came straight to me and tried to take my arm, but I avoided it. Her hand froze awkwardly in midair. "Ethan, come here for a moment." It was my sister calling me over. I glanced at Sophia and she nodded before I left. My sister wanted to introduce me to some musicians. After a round of polite conversation, I planned to return to Sophia. But as soon as I turned around, I saw Luna dumping a full glass of red wine down Sophia's neckline. "What are you doing?" Luna looked at me with teary eyes. "I just slipped. I didn't mean to." "Slipped? I saw you pour it on her." Her eyes reddened, but she stubbornly straightened her back. "I didn't do it on purpose." "Apologize." "What?" I repeated, "Apologize." Then I took off my suit jacket and draped it over Sophia. Her white dress was stained red. Luna looked at me in disbelief. "You want me to apologize to her?" I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "If you did something wrong, shouldn't you apologize?" Her face went pale. Her long lashes trembled. By now, our commotion had drawn the attention of many guests. Luna glanced at Noah, but he ignored her completely, too busy flirting with a beautiful woman nearby. Her fists clenched so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. Tears welled up in her eyes, but refused to fall. "Dad, I'm sorry." She threw out the words and ran away. I took Sophia upstairs to clean up. As soon as we got there, she started laughing. "I did that on purpose." "Did what on purpose?" She pointed at the wine stain. "I didn't dodge on purpose. I wanted to see if you'd still defend her like before." I was so frustrated I laughed. "What kind of logic is that?" She raised an eyebrow. At that moment, I swore if you dared to take her side again, I'd never talk to you for the rest of my life. Had I really always defended Luna? I couldn't remember. In my memories, Luna had never done anything wrong. "So did I pass your test?" I looked down into her bright, clear eyes. "What's my reward?" She tilted her head, thinking seriously. It was a little cute. I couldn't resist ruffling her hair. Her ears turned red, but this time, she didn't slap my hand away. "Too thought of a reward." "What is it?" She suddenly stood on tiptoe and kissed me on the cheek. "The reward is, you're allowed to pursue me." My heart pounded. My face burned. It wasn't until she patted my arm that I snapped out of it. "What's wrong? Don't want to pursue me." Her tone was playful, but her eyes were unusually serious. "That I do." She smiled again. "That's more like it." In the following days, Sophia and I went to many places. Our relationship gradually warmed up, but I didn't expect to be surrounded by reporters. When I went to my sister's company to deliver something, the incident at the birthday banquet where I made Luna apologize to Sophia had been captured and posted online. Although it was quickly taken down, many people had already seen it. "Mr. Ethan, do you have any conflict with Ms. Luna?" "No conflict. We're friends." The reporters exchanged glances and asked again. "But that day your attitude towards her didn't seem very friendly." "That day I was just too caught up in the moment and didn't watch my tone." I apologize. The reporters, realizing they couldn't get anything more out of me, moved on to ask about Noah and Luna's wedding. "Do you have anything to say to them?" I looked into the camera and spoke seriously. "Congratulations on your wedding." I didn't expect my simple wedding blessing to spread everywhere. My whole family found it frustrating, but on the bright side, it was free publicity for our company. As for the apartment Luna and I used to live in, I decided to put it on the market through an agency. Before that, I had to visit one last time to check if I had left behind anything valuable. Stepping into the elevator again, I felt as if I had been transported to another lifetime. The advertisements on the walls were the same, yet they felt like remnants of a past existence. As soon as I opened the door, the smell of alcohol hit me. Luna was sitting in the living room with over a dozen bottles of beer scattered on the coffee table. Her face was flushed, her eyes dazed. She looked completely drunk. Hearing the noise, she slowly turned to look at me. Ethan, you're back." She ran over barefoot and threw herself into my arms. "Aren't you tired?" I froze. She used to ask me the same question every time I came home. "Ethan, I want to eat your cooking." "Anything is fine. I'm easy to please, aren't I?" She tilted her head up at me. "Actually, even if I don't marry Noah, I can still survive, right?" Before I could answer, she started crying. Tears rolled down her cheeks, landing on the back of my hand. "Why did you wish me a happy wedding? Do you really want me to marry Noah? Was that truly from your heart?" I nodded. "Yes." She completely broke down, collapsing to the floor and sobbing uncontrollably. I had never seen her like this. Even when she was sick before, she never lost control like this. For a moment, I didn't know what to do. "Why did you wish me a happy wedding?" She gripped my hand, asking over and over. I thought for a moment. A friend's well wishes, don't overthink it. She sat on the floor, her gaze unfocused, mumbling. Friends. I pulled her up. Let me take you home. You're getting married tomorrow, aren't you? She suddenly grabbed my collar. Ethan, do you not love me anymore? She stared into my eyes full of desperate hope. I nodded. I don't love you anymore. When I think of you, I only feel exhausted. Just like you said, love can wear away. She slowly released her grip, standing there in a daze, staring at her toes in silence. Oops, did I come at a bad time? Noah leaned lazily against the doorframe, a lipstick stain still visible on his collar. He smirked at us. Should I leave you two to talk another day? The wedding's tomorrow. I'd hate for you to stay up too late and miss it. I frowned and was about to speak, but Luna had already walked past me and straight to Noah's side. Noah glanced at me with a mocking smile before leading Luna away. When I got home that night, Sophia was waiting for me. She leaned in and sniffed me, then frowned. Why do you smell like alcohol? I debated whether to tell her about running into Luna. Before I could decide, she asked, You saw Luna, didn't you? Did you drink with her? No. I quickly explained. I didn't drink. Under her skeptical gaze, I ended up telling her everything that had happened. After listening, she looked at me worriedly. Well, Noah, treat her well. She was actually worried about Luna. A warmth spread in my chest. How could I forget? This was the same girl who once fought with her family for 3 days over a stray dog, refusing to eat the whole time. In the end, I had to secretly bring her glucose to keep her from collapsing. She still fainted from hunger, and after that incident, her parents were so scared that they gave in to all her whims. Since then, they had spoiled her completely. She had always been such a kind and soft-hearted person. Why are you looking at me like that? I smiled. You're amazing. If you just realized that. Maybe I did realize it too late. I should have known long ago. The next day was Luna and Noah's wedding. The Inn family had sent invitations. Mom and Dad didn't want to go, and my sister was busy. That left Sophia and me, the two most available people in the family, to attend. I didn't mind, but Sophia looked a little concerned. Are you sure you're okay? I sighed helplessly. I told you I've moved on. If I hadn't, I wouldn't be pursuing you. Okay. She rested her head on my shoulder. By the time we arrived, many guests were already there. As the eldest son of the Inn family, Noah's wedding was an extravagant affair. He greeted guests alongside his parents. When he saw me, he was polite as ever. Enjoy the party. We shook hands. His smile was warm, but his eyes were cold. Sophia pointed at Noah. See, after all these years in business, he's perfected the fake smile. I thought of my sister negotiating deals. Her face would be stiff from all the smiling. The host had clearly spent a long time crafting the speech, painting Noah and Luna's love story as something deeply moving. Noah had stayed by Luna's side for 3 years after she lost her sight. She had tried to take her own life multiple times, but Noah's love had always saved her. Most guests were aware of the real situation, but a 10-year-old girl in the audience was so touched that she started crying. All the guests were from the groom's side. The bride's side was completely empty. It felt like an intentional slight. A single conspicuously vacant table had been prepared. When the time came, the doors opened. Luna walked in dressed in a traditional Chinese wedding outfit. Not the white wedding dress she loved. Not the Western-style ceremony she had dreamed of. I sighed inwardly. Was this really the marriage she wanted? With no parents to escort her, she walked alone toward the groom. Everything proceeded smoothly. After exchanging rings, the ceremony was nearly complete. Then Noah suddenly froze. His expression tensed as he looked toward the crowd. Everyone followed his gaze. Ava stood there pregnant. Luna panicked and quickly put the ring on her finger herself. But Noah's gaze was already fixed on Ava. He took 2 steps forward, only to be pulled back by Luna. Noah, it's almost over. Just wait a little longer. Ava smiled at Noah, but tears streamed down her thin cheeks. She slowly walked forward, looking up at Noah on the stage. So you're abandoning me and our child? Noah blinked, rapidly shoved Luna aside, jumped off the stage, and stood in front of Ava, frantically explaining, No, it's not like that. Aye. Ava laughed. I should have known all along, but I still chose to believe you. And what did you do? You lied to me this whole time. No, I was forced into this. His trembling hand reached out to wipe Ava's tears, but she dodged him. Noah, I don't want to see you anymore. We're done. After saying that, she wiped her tears away and turned to leave. Noah stood there staring blankly at Ava's departing figure. His fingers reached for his wedding ring, rubbing it lightly. A few seconds later, he suddenly yanked it off and threw it to the ground, about to run after her. Luna reacted quickly and grabbed him. Noah, are you going to abandon me? Noah turned to look at her and simply said, I'm sorry, but I can't abandon Ava. Luna shook her head frantically, her voice sharp and desperate. You owe me a life. If you walk away today, I won't forgive you. I was confused. Luna had mentioned before that Noah owed her a life, but I never knew what she meant. Noah forcefully pushed her away. Do whatever you want. Luna lost her balance and fell to the ground. Noah's parents chased after him. Son, you can't go. You'll be ruined. But Noah ignored them and ran after Ava. His mother, sobbing, suddenly rushed over and slapped Luna 5 or 6 times. You useless idiot. You can't even keep a man. Before I could react, Sophia had already stormed forward. Who doesn't know your son is a shameless womanizer? He got another woman pregnant and still had the audacity to get married. You raised a scumbag and now you're blaming someone else. else. I quickly stepped forward to stand beside her. Noah's parents, still concerned about appearances, said nothing and turned to apologize to the guests. Sophia pulled Luna away and I followed behind. Once outside, Luna rasped, "I want to be alone." So I let the driver take her home. "You were like a warrior today." She flexed her arm, showing off her muscle. "I've always been one, okay?" I couldn't help but pull her into a hug. "I keep discovering new sides of you." She hugged me back. "I'm afraid if you know me too well, you'll fall for me so deeply you can't escape." I'd look forward to that. The drama between Luna and Noah lasted a few days before fading away. But Sophia was about to leave for the US, and I felt a bit down. Her career was there, and she had already stayed here for too long. After dinner, my dad suddenly called me to his study. As soon as I walked in, he handed me a stack of documents. "Here it comes." I knew it. He was finally going to ask me to join the family business. "This is the information I've compiled for you. Take a look and see which school you'd like to go to." "School?" He turned his face away. "Yeah, you gave up studying abroad for Luna back then. Now the opportunity has come again. Don't waste it." I flipped through the pages. The first part contained school information, and the latter half was filled with my dad's handwritten notes on how to apply. "Whichever school you want to go to, I've already written out the steps for you." My nose tingled and my eyes burned slightly. He sighed. "Go after what you want. Just know that when your mom and I are gone, most of the family fortune will go to your sister. Don't feel resentful about it." I laughed. Why would I? When I told Sophia, she was thrilled. But I'm already 26. Going back to university now feels a bit. Sophia saw my hesitation. "Pursuing your dreams is never too late." "All right, I'll do it." Sophia left for the US first. I still had exams to take and paperwork to handle. The day before I left, Luna came to see me. She looked frail, like a gust of wind could knock her down. "I've completely cut ties with Noah." "That's good." She stared at me, eyes burning. I wanted to ask, "Can you forgive me maybe? We could start over." I shook my head. "It's too late. I've already fallen for someone else." Sophia, "Yeah." She let out a bitter laugh. I knew this would be the outcome, but I still wanted to try. "I really don't want to lose you." I looked out the window, saying nothing. She spoke softly. "I know that even if Sophia wasn't in the picture, we'd still be impossible." I nodded. "Yes." She took a deep breath and forced a smile. "Whatever. At least I have money now." I frowned slightly. Luna smirked. "Noah gave me 30 million. Not bad, right?" I didn't know how to respond. She laughed, but soon tears started falling again. "This is what I got in exchange for my dad's life." I froze. "What do you mean?" "My dad was killed by Noah in a car accident." What she had told me before, that her father died in a car crash. But I never expected Noah to be the one responsible. He said if I stayed quiet and didn't report it, he'd marry me and give me shares in his company. But I never thought he'd abandon everything for Ava, not even caring if he went to jail. She slumped over the table. "At least I have money. At least I have money. Otherwise, my dad would have died for nothing. Don't you think?" Her expression unsettled me. It seemed like she wasn't asking for an answer, more like she was running away from reality. Before I could respond, she put on her sunglasses, whispered a goodbye, and left. On the day I left the country, I didn't let anyone come to see me off. As I boarded the plane, I thought I saw a familiar figure flicker through the crowd, but I didn't dwell on it and embarked on my new journey. Sophia and I lived in the same city. I confessed to her, and she said yes. Years later, we returned home to get married. After coming back, my parents told me that Luna had been arrested for a hitandron resulting in Noah's death. Noah had also sued Luna for extortion. Both of them ended up in prison. Sophia and I sighed at the news. But after that, we turned back to the wedding preparations, busily immersed in our happiness. Luna was completely out of my life. The end. If you like Kitten's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.